Hey all, and welcome back to Let's Talk Assassin's Creed, your number one podcast for all things Assassin's Creed. In today's episode we are going to try and answer the question, why was Bayek created? And the reason why I'm asking this question is because it's cropped up a few times since Origin's release that Aya is also a Nuet, a figurehead that was revealed in Assassin's Creed 2. And this just shows that Aya has been in Assassin's Creed lore since 2008, which is a big thing since the game is over 12 years old. So, if they've had this character since 2008, why make a new one? When you could have fleshed out a story that was already hinted back then. So before we dive in, I just want to do a bit of housekeeping. This will have spoilers, obviously, for Origins and Odyssey. And I will be doing a big Odyssey spoiler next week that'll give you more information about this week, sort of. It'll come to light next week. So, before we dive in, let's just look a quick glance at Aya's impact on Assassin's Creed lore. We'll start at the beginning. Her birth was important because her grandma is Cassandra, who had a child with Darius' son, and Darius was the first assassin. Therefore, Aya grew up in a household with the teachings of the assassins, meaning she knew the skills, the philosophy, and the training to be an assassin. Fast forward, she met Bayek in Egypt. He was a Magi, a protector of the people. Then they lost their son to an order of ancients. He blames himself, but he blames everyone else. This led to a rift and a crusade for vengeance. She goes away to Rome, does some spy stuff. I don't really know. I've played the game, but Aya's story in there is still a bit scratchy because you play it for a little bit. She comes back to Egypt, bumping into Bayek, and you both go on a massive crusade to free Egypt from the ordinary ancients. Then at the very end, you realise you can't love each other because of this line of work. It's too dangerous for love. So they go their separate ways, and at the same time, the Brotherhood is created. So this is Aya. Aya has a fleshed out story. She's eventually then goes and kills Cleopatra, who she works for in Origins with I think it's an asp or an adder, a serpent, and that's why you get the statue in Assassin's Creed 2 of Anuet of a snake. So she's very prominent in the game, which is very amazing, to be honest. But this just means that Bayek is what I would call as a filler. You've got a story, we're just filling it in. But when we look deeper, we realise that, hang on, I'm wrong. Bayek is needed. Because the best way to explain it is, Aya has all this training, this philosophies, desire for peace and freedom from Darius' pseudo-assassin training. But she's a fire. That's all she is. She's just a flame. You need that catalyst to spark the flame into something more. And that's what Bayek was. So when you look at the game, Bayek was a Magi. He obviously had the training to look after the people of Egypt. That was his goal. He loved to look after the people. He turned on his pharaoh, which is what Magi was never supposed to do. They were meant to serve, protect the people and the pharaoh. But he turned on the pharaoh. He became independent and worked with Aya and Cleopatra to take down the Order of Ancients. But before he met into them, he lost his son, which was very tragic. But at the same time, he probably felt himself to blame. He could have done more for his son. And it's that passion that he strode out on his own, left the Magi Order behind, and killed the first Order of Ancients he could find. Once he'd done that, he returned to Siwa, realised that the threat was bigger than he imagined. And when you play the game as Bayek and you walk around the world, you can see briefly that this is a world that is broken. It's manipulated, it's crushed. And Aya's off in Rome. I believe she's in Rome. I could be wrong. But Aya's off in Rome. She's not seeing what's happening on their motherland after what happens. And obviously she comes back. She gives Bayek a hidden blade. He uses it to kill the hippo, which is one of the Order of Ancients. And they start to rekindle their love. And they start to help vengeance for their child. But this is where Assassin's Creed dials up the notch to 11, because I'm describing this heart-wrenching family story of love, betrayal, redemption, but it's not, because as he delves deeper, he starts to find traces of Eastern law through an apple, through a vault, and that's what the Order was after. And Aya was never seeing this. Bayek was seeing this. And it just got to the point where he kept fighting with Aya, to the point where, in the end of it, the end game, he stays behind to create the Hidden Ones. It's the birth of the assassins. And he then uses what he's seen, his help with Aya, to spread the message. She goes to Rome to kill, I might be wrong, but I think it's Julius Caesar in the gameplay, in the ending. I could be wrong. It was a few months ago, and since then I've been headfirst in Odyssey, and that's like blew my brain. But that's another topic. And that is probably why her statue is in Assassin's Creed 2, because that's set in Italy and Rome, and that's probably what's happened. Her influence has spread wide. So, if we look at why was Bayek created, then we can see that actually Aya's history may be fleshed out, and Aya's maybe a prominent head figure in Assassin's Creed lore since Assassin's Creed 2, but she's not relevant. And I know this sounds like being harsh, because she is an amazing character, amazing voice actor, amazing story. But if she never met Bayek, and she never had that child, and that child was never killed, the most dramatic thing ever, and they never went on that personal crusade for vengeance and redemption, then they would never have seen how broken their homeland was, and the need that those philosophies that Aya's had in her family were just going to get put to use long later on, or maybe never put to use. But with Bayek by her side, and the ending to the harrowing journey to get redemption for the son near an end, it kind of comes clear that they need to push on. They need more. They need something concrete and grand. And it actually is Bayek's own philosophy with her to create the Hidden Ones. It wasn't known for years what the Assassin's Creed symbol was, but Bayek always carried a skull of an eagle on his neck, and he dropped the eagle in the sand when him and Aya split up. She went to Rome and he stayed in Egypt, and the imprint it left on the sand was the Assassin's Creed logo, because of the way the bones fell and the skull fell. And it's kind of prominent that a small act of carrying a prized possession around to give birth to a symbol that means hope, freedom, and probably death to the Templars, but the Templars did have it coming. So all in all, they could have made a game about Aya, and, focused how she became who she is, why she took down Cleopatra, but you would have lacked that emotion, because every minute you spend with Bayek, you're a father fighting for your son. It becomes even prominent when Ayaz doesn't come back, when Ayaz back and you're doing all the footwork. In one of the side missions, you help one of the rebels, and he kills one of the rebels' enemies, kills his daughter, or drowns her, and you can't save her as Bayek. In gameplay, that must be heart-wrenching for Bayek, because he lost his son in a similar way, and it just shows that Aya is such a prominent figure. She deserves the recognition she gets, and they should do more on her. I would love to see what she's been up to in Rome, personally. But when we want to look at why was Bayek created, well, he was created as the father of the Brotherhood. He was created as the fire that would that would ignite his fire and passion to protect people. It's his Magi philosophy and training that helped him protect Egypt. And I truly believe once you play the Hidden Ones DLC, that what he created then moved on to the Middle East, which is then what would have birthed Altair's Brotherhood, and eventually Aya would have birthed the Italian Brotherhood eventually, and then you just round circle. And it's probably a far stretch, but when I look at the timeline in my head, I see Bayek created the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood then evolved, went to the Middle East. the Middle Eastern Brotherhood grew. Altair was born. Altair grew up in this Brotherhood. We all know what the Altair story is. Look at Aya. Aya's fighting for peace and freedom in Rome, and at the time of the Roman emperors, it would have been one of the most corrupt times. I believe Julius Caesar was even betrayed by his own people, and that just shows how mad with power some women can get, and willing to stab you in the back. And she would then have helped inspire the Italian Brotherhood, but it all comes back to Bayek. And I don't really think that if they tried to do everything they did in Origins with Aya, I don't think that would have worked. So, now I look back at it, I'm wrong. Bayek was never a filler. Never someone created to fill or be retconned. He was created because Aya does have this law and this foothold, but she doesn't have the passion and the drive to take her forward to create the Brotherhood. And overall, Origins, if you've not played it, or if you're just stuck around even those with spoilers, I would advise you play it, because Bayek's story in the game is one you need to experience. It's on the level, in my opinion, of the story that Assassin's Creed 2 tried to tell. Now, before I sign off, I want to give everybody a quick heads up, because next week's podcast is a tricky one. And the reason it's tricky is I'm going to take a game that's got multiple choice and tell you, no matter what you're doing it wrong. And now this is not me trying to be an idiot or unfair or criticise anyone. What my podcast is, I got the novel for Assassin's Creed Odyssey with the game, and the Assassin's Creed novel gives the official canon ending, which was never put into the game unless you got the book and you made it. So I've had a lot of friends who've done all the different endings. I think someone's got about 5-10 different endings, but they don't know what's canon. And I would like to read the canon ending on a podcast episode. And this kind of pains me to want to do this, but I'm also wary about doing it because of multiple choice. It might make people believe that I'm saying their ending is wrong, when in fact every ending you make for Odyssey is correct. It is your ending. But if you are a hardcore Assassin's Creed fan that would like to know the lore and the true ending, then stick around for next week. I will be doing it, and hopefully you all enjoy it. Thank you again for listening, and I'll catch you around.